Welcome back to the Michigan Football Network. And we are back on another Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m., as always, with your Lions and Michigan football update. Now, first things first, we are brought to you by Fanatics. Best place for you to get sports apparel, period, in my opinion. I just feel, they have the best prices. They always have great deals. So it's a great place to check it out and get your sports apparel at a good price. Um, Link will be in the description. Now, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and start with our Michigan football update. Um, just to kind of get that out of the way because the Lions have a bit to talk about today. So, with that being said, Michigan football is coming off of a pretty rough loss to USC. Now, in my opinion, the offense obviously needs to just get a little bit better, period. The pass game, like, obviously Marsh had a really good game, but it just kind of seems like we're lacking in a lot of different areas in terms of like play calling and schematically. And I also just feel the run game was nowhere near as good as it has been all year last week, which showed to kind of kill us at the end of the day. And then, of course, our defense needs to just be better. I mean, specifically the run defense. They let up like, what was it, 140 yards to one running back. I mean, you're not going to win when you're getting that, especially when your best back has 65 yards or whatever it was for Marshall. So, not great for Michigan, but I do think they have another pretty tough game coming up against Washington. I feel like a lot of people are kind of overlooking Washington right now because I mean they're 5-1 and they're still unranked, which I think is kind of odd. But they're really good, man. They got a really good offense over there. Their quarterback is really good. Their running back is really good. The receivers are really good. Denzel Boston is a stud, as we all know. So their defense is not as good as their offense, but it's still pretty solid. I mean, I don't think Michigan is going to come out here and do whatever they want by any means. So it's definitely going to be a pretty tough game for Michigan, which I will be there. So hopefully they can get the win, but we'll see what happens. But with that being said, what are your thoughts on last week and next week for Michigan?
Yeah, I'm real curious to see how they respond this week, just because, I mean, obviously that wasn't our first loss of the season, but I feel like that was the first time we really just got punched in the mouth. We got out physicaled. We just basically got dominated, to put it lightly. I don't think there was, um, besides like the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, I don't think we were really ever in that game. USC had, pretty much it in hand, kind of coasted and expanded the lead as the game went on. And as you mentioned, with this upcoming game against Washington, I how do I want to put this? I don't only want to say that like I feel like some people are taking this too light. I think there's a chance that Washington flat out wins. So,
Yep.
I mean, the Wolverines are listed as a 6-point favorite, but like Washington's no joke on offense.
Yeah.
And our Michigan defense this season has been a little bit wishy-washy. Some weeks they come out and they look dominant, and other weeks they look like they uh, forgot to practice that week. Or I'm trying to think of they sometimes they look like Bishop Sycamore out there. So I had to deep down. I'm like, what is the name of that college, or high school, whatever,
hmm
because that was IMG. But yeah, we'll see obviously what happens, but the Michigan team as a whole, even the offense and defense, both sides kind of seem like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. So I want to see which team shows up versus Washington.
Yeah, for sure. And before we move on, I just wanted to mention I looked back at Washington's schedule because I wasn't exactly sure who they all played this year. Their only loss was to Ohio State. They beat Colorado State by three scores. They beat UC Davis 70-10. They beat
Same, like I
Washington
know there was a
State.
smaller school that they absolutely dominated.
Yeah. And they dominated Washington State as well, 59-24. And then they lost to Ohio State, 24-6, which is, valid. Ohio State's the best team in college football right now. And then they beat Maryland by 4, beat Rutgers by what, 3 or 4 scores. So this is not a team that we're gonna just come in here and beat up at all. I mean, this is going to be a very, very tough game for Michigan. And like you said, I honestly kind of think we're going to lose, if I'm being real with you. I'm kind of going into this game going, I mean, I think it's going to be a close game and a good game, but I do think there's potential that it's a legitimate shootout as well, which I don't know if that bodes well for Michigan right now with, how our offense has been. Which I do think they can definitely keep up with Washington. But we'll see how it goes. I don't really want to give a prediction because, like I said, I feel like Washington probably will win. Just because of how we played against USC last week and just kind of how we've been really up and down this year. I just feel like Washington has maybe not exactly, but they don't match up well with us. For they have an advantage in that especially offensively because their receivers are really good. Like I said, their backs are really good, and their quarterback is playing really well. I mean, he's got I think it was like 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Pretty solid for where we're at in the season. So, with that being said, though, like I said, I will be there. So hopefully Michigan can pull out the win, but I would not be surprised either way. Um, I guess I'll give a prediction. I'll say Michigan 34, Washington 31. I think it's going to be that kind of game, and it could go either way. So that's my 2 cents. What is your prediction for the game?
I see it being. Hopefully, I'm right. I see it being a little bit much lower scoring game. I don't know why I can't talk today. And I mean, I would love even with your prediction, I would love to be able to score 30. Um, like we've done it in the past, but I'm just like I don't know. Like I said, we're so up and down. I've come into games this year very confident, and then we disappoint. And I've come into games this year with no expectations, and they go off. So, with that being said, I would say, let's go 24-21 Michigan. I think they'll keep it close. But like I said, I won't be shocked at all if Washington does pull out the upset here.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I honestly kind of almost feel like they probably will win, just based on how we've been playing this year. But moving on to our Detroit Lions conversation. First things first. Obviously, it sucks to lose. Okay, nobody wants to lose. However, it was the Chiefs in Kansas City. We're not healthy right now on either side of the ball. I am not that worried, if I'm being honest with
No.
you. Like, we didn't go in there and get our asses kicked. The score look. I think the score looks a little worse than how the game actually felt. For the majority of it, we were definitely in that game for the most part. It wasn't. It wasn't one of those where you go like Green Bay this year, where you're like, shit, we
Yeah.
didn't look too good. Like we are fine. I am not that worried about it. As we know, the keys for the game, in my opinion, was pass rush, run the ball, and can our DBs hold up? Pass rush actually did pretty well. Both Hutch and Muhammad and Jack Campbell had a sack. So we were definitely getting to Mahomes. And, running the ball, we didn't do a great job. Unfortunately, Jameer Gibbs only had like 65 yards on just under 20 attempts as our leading rusher, which is not what you want to see. And then, Jared Goff only had 203 passing yards. He did have 2 touchdowns, but 23 of 29. So still a solid game for him, but statistically, we were kind of um, down a little bit. And like I said, Gibbs was our leading rusher, and then Montgomery was next with 4 carries for 24 yards. So he didn't really get much going. We didn't really get much going on the ground. Um, and then, like I said, can our DBs hold up? They didn't. They didn't. Unfortunately, like it was just not a good game for us defensively. I think obviously Patrick Mahomes didn't come out and throw for 500 yards or anything crazy like that, but 22 for 30, 257 yards and 3 touchdowns is pretty damn good, especially considering that he also had a rushing touchdown on 10 carries for 32 attempts. Isaiah Pacheco had a pretty good game against us as well. He had 12 carries for 51 yards. No touchdowns, but he was running hard and he was getting some big runs when they really needed it, with, average of 4.2 yards per carry. And then Travis Kelce, you know, 6 for 78, Juju 3 for 57, Hollywood Brown 4 for 45 and 2 touchdowns. Our DBs just weren't getting it done. Unfortunately for us, our corners are just not great right now, which we kind of knew was going to happen. I mean, it's hard to go into Kansas City down your top two corners, kind of playing guys off the street like how we did last year. I mean, you can't expect those guys to play up to par, especially with the kind of defense that we run. Um, Now, with that being said, we did just sign a new corner, Kendall Fuller, which I think is a very, very good addition personally. Veteran, versatile, can play inside or outside. He's a little bit better on the outside. We actually posted a tweet today about this, but he was ranked like 75th last year among corners, which means that he would be the third best corner, or he was ranked, yeah, 75th. So he'd be the third best corner on like every team essentially by his PFF grade. And Amik Robertson this year has a worse grade than Kendall Fuller did last year. So I do think Kendall Fuller is a pretty good addition for us, and I think he's going to play a lot for us, even as the season goes on. Honestly, I feel like he's one of those guys that could, once Maddox is back and once Arnold is back and excuse me, and once Reed is back, I still think he's a guy we could keep on the roster. But with that being said, excuse me. With that being said, that didn't help us last week against the Chiefs, unfortunately. It was just one of those games where, we just didn't really get it done on either side of the ball enough times to get us over the hump. But what are your thoughts on the Lions' loss to Kansas City?
Well, the refs suck, and I know that in partially I agree with my own criticism of what I'm about to say, but I know kind of calling out the refs is a bit of a cop out, and every fan base, all 32, think that their team gets screwed. Um, but the one thing is, obviously, as Lions fans, we've been screwed countless times. And to be fair, at least it wasn't nothing like the Seattle game or the Dallas playoff game. It was not that bad. So take that with a grain of salt. But it happened in prime time, and I saw a lot of national media writers and NFL reporters commenting on such things. And it was nice that it happened at least when we were like the only game on, so it kind of happened in front of people. Um, that being said, even if the game was called fair, I don't know if we would win either way. But it would have been a hell of a lot closer, and it sure didn't feel good at the time. But we did just simply get outplayed at the end of the day. Uh, and insert your receiver here. Were the Hollywood Brown? They were open all day. We got some decent pressure on Mahomes, but not enough, not consistent enough. And as you went down through our offensive numbers, no one really had a big breakout game. Like I know St. Brown had 9 receptions, but he didn't have many yards. I know JMO
I
had
mean,
his
JMO
best.
kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
something
he
like
had a
JMO
pretty
had
good game.
a better game than we've seen the last few weeks, but we have, as we mentioned before, especially with the two running backs, we have multiple players, at least five between Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, JMO, and St. Brown that could take over any given game, any given Sunday, and none of them really did. Like I said, JMO had a better game, but we've seen 90, 100-yard games and multiple touchdown games by most of these guys at some point this year, and it just wasn't there, unfortunately. St. Brown, in my opinion, might be the number one most reliable receiver in the league, and he had a fourth down drop. That's clearly out of character for him, but it happened. So it's just like it just seemed to not be our night on top of the other like the officiating issues and other things. On top of us having five of our top seven corners out. On top of Kirby and Brian Branch playing banged up. Kirby even had to leave the game for a little bit. He did come back, but it's like we are not remotely healthy. And unfortunately, we are, in my opinion, having kind of the same season as last year, and injury wise. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll take never losing again because we already have two losses. So I'll take 11-0 to do the same thing we did last year. But the injuries are coming all kind of in the same unit, all in that defensive back room. And what I think would be a decent segue, but I'll let you determine, is at least looking forward against Tampa, their wide receiver room may be just as injured as our cornerback room. So I feel like that is going to be the matchup to watch, so to speak, come Monday night.
Yeah, for sure. And so before we move on to the Tampa game, I do want to wrap up the Chiefs game a little bit. So with that being said, I feel the offense, kind of like what you said, we didn't really have, any breakouts, but J-Mo had a good game. The Goff touchdown that was called back, which kind of sucked because that would have been on
That would have
highlight
been
reels for the rest of the
awesome.
forever. Um, and then Laporta really had a good game as well. He's having a pretty good season. Tate Ratledge, he's getting better every single week. It seems like we might have a future like All Pro. He's that good. Like every single week, you see more film of him doing everything right. And obviously, he's not doing it right every single snap, but you see a snap every single time where it's perfect. Like if he could get that more consistent, we are looking at one of the better guards in the NFL, I think. And then the last thing I wanted to say before we move on is I wanted to talk. Well, I have two things. Obviously, Branch is suspended against Tampa Bay because of the skirmish at the end of the Chiefs game, which was just stupid. Just stupid. And that's the thing. Branch seems to get himself into trouble all the time. And Campbell, I mean, Campbell kind of got on him a little bit in the presser. He was like, "Yeah, that's just dumb. Like, we can't be doing that dumb shit here. Like, that's not how we do things." And he also went on to say that he knows Branch isn't a bad guy and all these things, so he should be able to get it figured out and squared away. It does suck we're going to be without him though, because our DBs are already not great, and he's probably our best one. So losing him for a game like this is not great because even though you mentioned the Bucks are without their top three receivers, Baker is still playing unreal this year. So I am still worried about our pass defense this week quite a bit. Um, but with that being said, Aiden Hutchinson this season is playing like the defensive player of the year right now. He is, let's see, per FF, he's the second best edge at 92.3. He is first in pressures with 36. He is third in sacks with 7, second in hurries with 22, seventh in hits with 7. He's also first in strip sacks. And I just feel, and first in forced fumbles. And I just feel right now, the only guy who I can really I would say might be up there with him is Devin Lloyd from Jacksonville. There's not many pass rushers this year that I guess are, just doing everything like Hutch is right now. And I feel Devin Lloyd has had a really good season, but he also was out last week, which kind of takes him down in the rankings. And I also feel, or I'm sorry, last I knew, Aiden Hutchinson was the betting favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. So we might see Aiden Hutchinson win Defensive Player of the Year the direct season after he broke his leg in half. That's insane. That is nuts. And I'm sorry, but there is a lot of people, and they're still saying it because, well, for lack of a better way to say it, they're dumbasses. Um, there were people saying that Hutch was not going to be the same. Like after the first few games, they're like, he's not the same. He's not as dominant. He's not as good. Blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, what are you even watching, bro? Because if you just watch Aiden Hutchinson on any given snap, he's going to be dominating every play. It's insane. Like the dude is just the best in the league. I mean, that's what it is. We're at that point now where the Detroit Lions have the best right tackle, the best defensive end, and possibly the best running back in the entire NFL. That is insane. I don't know if the Lions have ever been there with that many players of that caliber. And of course, we also, Kirby Joseph is a very good safety. Brian Branch as well is a very good safety. You could argue both of those guys might be top five at their position, which kind of nuts. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown might probably a top five receiver as well. So the Lions are just completely stacked with talent right now, and they're all under contract, bro. So we got them for a long time. Um, and then the last thing I want to say before we move on to the Tampa Bay game is Jack Campbell has been playing very, very, very good this year. Right now, I want to say he might be the most surprising Lion so far with how he's played. Obviously, we knew he's a good player and everything, but right now he's got himself in that elite conversation. Realistically, I mean, he pass game, run game, he's doing it all. Excuse me. Per PFF, he's the sixth highest ranked linebacker with an 86.1 overall grade. He is 10th in tackles with 38. Um, let's see here. First in forced fumbles, first in stops, third in sacks. Okay. And he's 18th in pressures. So, I mean, he's getting it done as well. I mean, I feel like Jack Campbell's going to be one of those guys when the season's over that the NFL as a whole is going to be talking about. Like, he might be the best linebacker in the league in the next couple years. Which I'll tell you what, if that happens, Brad Holmes, we should already build a statue right now. But I'm talking like this dude has found so many just absolute dogs in the draft. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it was a shame that we overdrafted him and Gibbs, though, right?
Yeah, totally. It's like, hey, I that's like with the Ratledge thing. When it happened, I was like,
Oh, I
I
loved
don't
him.
know. I love the player. I love the player, but I was like, I don't know about and Tesla, same thing. I love the player, but I was like, I don't know about giving up that much value to go get that guy. But I literally said it on the show. I was like, but if you got a guy you really like and you know he's going to be really good, you go get him. And if Ratledge and Tisla turn out to be really, really good players, it won't matter what we gave up for them. And already I'm like, it doesn't matter. I kind of feel like that already. And Tisla has not really even done that much. He's had a few catches. So,
Yeah, but they're almost all touchdowns.
right. I mean, he's a beast, but it's like he's
No,
not really doing too much on the stat sheet. So I
no,
just
he's not.
feel like the fact that we've come to that conclusion already is a really good sign because it's like, yeah, they're going to be really good players. So we shouldn't even care about that. And like on the Campbell thing, a lot of people thought he was overdrafted as a first round pick, but look at him now. I mean, he's one of the best linebackers in the league. That's worth a first round pick if you ask me.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, we will now move on to the game against Tampa Bay. So my keys for this game are pretty much the same as against Kansas City, if I'm being honest with you. Pressure Baker, run the ball, and, well, that second one we might not be able to do, but run the ball and take advantage of the wide receivers being out with good DB play. So, with that being said, Bucky Irving is also out. So their top running back is also hurt, which means the Lions have more advantage. Now, Rashad White is still a very good player, and they also have uh, Sean. It's not Baker. Shoot, I can't
For
remember the.
their running back, I only know White and Bucky, so I don't know who their third guy is.
Okay. Well, pretty sure it's Sean. Oh, damn it! It's starting to irritate me because I know it's. It seems like I feel like it's Baker, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Um, Here, I'll just look it up real quick. Sean. Oh, damn it! It's not on here.
Yeah, I was trying to find for 20 minutes while we were talking Lions their like official injury report, and I can't find it because I know they said
Oh,
there's a chance Evans comes back this week, but nothing's a given because he's missed the
hmm,
last like 3 or 4 or something.
right.
And then Ibuka is out, and they already said that. And then I haven't heard anything on Godwin, but
Godwin is doubtful.
okay. So yeah, so one out, one doubtful, and one literal questionable.
Hmm.
And
Sean Tucker. That's his name.
okay,
Um, where was I? But yeah, with Irving being out, that's the running backs that we're gonna have to go against, which they're both pretty solid, but they're obviously not Bucky Irving, so it's a little bit of an advantage for us. Um, the only negatives I will say is Tampa Bay is fourth against the run, which does not bode well for our run game, but they are 29th versus the pass, so we should be able to use the pass game against them. The only problem with that is their pass rush is really good. They're first in pressure rate as a team, but they only have 10 sacks. So it seems like they're getting a lot of pressure, but they're not getting home. So if I'm adding this up correctly in my head, right? 29th in pass defense, first in pass rush win rate or pressure rate, but they only have 10 sacks. That to me says their defensive line is getting pressure, but the DBs are so bad that the
Swiss
quarterback is
cheese.
able to get the ball out fast to open receivers. Like with that being said, let's take a look at the Bucks schedule, because I think they just played the Jets, so that'll kind of tell you a lot about their pass defense. I mean, if they played the Eagles last week, and then they played the Jets the week before. Tyrod Taylor had 200 passing yards and 2 touchdowns against him, so I mean
Yikes.
nothing crazy, I guess. And then of course Jalen Hurts only 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, so nothing crazy there.
Yeah, they only beat
Um,
the Jets by 2, and then they beat the Texans by 1. So they
yeah.
have had a lot of close games.
And against the Seahawks, they won by 3, but Sam Darnold had 300. He was 28 for 34, 341 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. So, if you ask me, I think we should really like dominate them in the pass game. The only problem I have is Decker still being injured. I don't know how to feel about the pass rush thing because they could get home on us a little bit more. Uh, Goff didn't get sacked more than I think one time last week against Kansas City, so they held up pretty well with Dan Skipper in there, which was a little bit better than what Manu put out there. So I'm not like super worried about it, but that's the one thing I'm thinking we're still going to need to use the run game just to keep those pass rushers at bay a little bit. Which obviously we have a really good run game, but Tampa Bay being ranked fourth, versus the run is not a great thing for us. But those are my keys for Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts?
Mine all surround. I feel like this entire game can get melted down into our defensive backs versus their receivers. They might have the most injured receiver room in the NFL. And without looking at the other 31 teams, I can tell you the Lions have the most injured defensive backs in the NFL. Um, it is, I don't quite want to say practice squad versus practice squad for those units, but it's pretty damn close. And like I said, I have not heard anything about Mike
Preseason game.
Evans. I'm sorry?
It's a preseason game basically for those
For
guys.
just the receivers versus defensive backs, it is.
Yeah.
It literally is. But like I feel like we would have enough in, as you mentioned, with the Bucks pass defense being kind of their Achilles heel. I feel like that's where we obviously excel at. Once again, I don't need to mention all the weapons we have. Um, but yeah, like it's gonna have to be shorter passes, quicker timing routes and whatnot. Can't have golf stand in the pocket for 5 seconds looking for JMO deep. You have to get the ball out and a lot of dink and dunk, and it's not going to be sexy, so to speak, but I feel like it can be efficient and it could significantly help us to a win, which is obviously what we're going for.
Yeah, and I feel like, kind of like we both both have talked about many times on here, you know, every football game is going to have similar like things you need to do to win, right? But as we've mentioned before, Tampa Bay's run defense is very good and their pass defense is not very good. I feel like Jared Goff might have his best game of the season this week. I feel like as long as we can keep him clean, I feel like JMO is going to have a great game. Amon Ra is going to have a great game. Laporta will have a great game. And I could see honestly like 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, like just letting it loose, letting it rip. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Maybe not necessarily. Maybe 303 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns. But I do think Goff is going to really put it on this week. And I also really want to watch our pass rush because I feel like the Buccaneers offensive line has been pretty good this year, but not great. You know, they have a lot of injuries up front, which obviously is always going to be hard to overcome. And right now, their starting O line, their starting right tackle and right guard are on IR. They still have Wirfs, but then it goes Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton, Luke Haggard, and Charlie Heck. So their right side of their O line is completely beat up, and it seems that Aiden Hutchinson moves around a lot every game, like he's on both sides. So I could see Aiden Hutchinson really, really eating this game too. Like, call me crazy, but I could see us genuinely dominating this game if we can shore up our DBs. I could see this being like how Seattle was last year on Monday Night Football. And I also feel like with how Tampa's played this year, though, it could be just a full on shootout, similar to how they played Seattle. And that's probably more likely what it will be because, like we mentioned before, our DBs have not been great. Brian Branch is out too. So we are just in a bad spot with our defensive backs this week specifically. And last thing before we move on, Ali McNeil could be back. So that's going to be really big for us too. If he's back, that offers us even more pass rush. And I don't know, man. I just feel like we could really get after Baker this week and really make it hard on him to throw the ball. And we should be able to throw it pretty easily because even Dan Skipper in there, he did pretty well last week. So,
Yeah, the one thing I will add to that is I would not, and I'm not saying you are, but for anyone else out there listening, I would not sleep on Baker Mayfield. He
hmm
has been a he kind of reminds me of Goff, where he's been top five in a lot of stats and a lot of important stats, and he just almost no one talks about him. And like, don't get me wrong, I've seen a few things on him, but I haven't seen his name up there with the Mahomes and Lamar Jacksons and uh, Jared Allen's. And I mean, over the last like 2 seasons, he's been up there with these guys statistically. And right now, he is first in passes over 40 yards, fourth in touchdowns, fourth in touchdown to interception ratio, fourth in yards, and sixth in passer rating. So, and that's with, once again, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Mike Evans has missed at least 3 games. It might even be four. So his number one receivers missed some time. Like now he's missing, Godwin and Ibuka too. But I mean, he's putting up stats without a large chunk of his weapons, and as you mentioned, without his starting right side of his O line. So while I agree with you, I do think as long as we can shore up our defensive backs and just kind of let loose on offense, I do think we have too many weapons to handle for their defense. I can potentially see this being a blowout for the Lions, but I can also and more likely see it just a massive shootout between two underrated quarterbacks.
Yeah, and that's kind of exactly where I'm going to. Like you mentioned, I'm just gonna, expound on the Baker Mayfield thing a little bit. I'm sorry, but being what 11th in attempts, but being third in touchdowns and being fourth in yards, while also being 25th in average time to throw. I mean, that in my opinion is all elite, elite, elite. Now and then on top of that, you add on top of that he only had one interception and he's also first in big time throws. Baker Mayfield, like you mentioned, is a top five quarterback right now. I mean, it's really hard because it's like who Lamar, Allen, Mahomes. After that, it's like I don't
Goff and
know.
Mayfield, my two
See,
cents.
that's the thing. I agree with you, but I also think I don't know if we've ever had such um depth at the quarterback position because honestly, like from like 1 to like
Excuse me.
12, I would say maybe 1 to 10 is pretty interchangeable if you ask me.
Yeah. And
Like
for this
obviously you
year
have the top
only,
3, but yeah.
honorable mention, Oh my God, I just spaced on his name. Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones
Mm.
is just out of nowhere having a nice year.
And another guy that I was going to say is Dak Prescott. I feel like Dak
Yep.
Prescott is having a really, really good year as well. Matter of fact, I'm going to look at his PFF up right now. Baker Mayfield was sixth in PFF grade, which I mean is kind of where we were just talking about. That's about where we would put him between 4 and 6, something like that.
Yeah.
Goff obviously is having a really, really, really good season as well, which I'll look his PFF up right after this. But Dak Prescott right now is ranked third among quarterbacks per PFF with a 91.3. And he's first in quarterback. He's at first in attempts, second in snaps, third in dropbacks. But he's second in yards, second in touchdowns with 13, and then he has 3 interceptions. Third in big time throws, and he's 23rd in average time to throw. So it's all the same shit we were just talking about with Baker, but it's a little bit better even. Which I mean, I feel like Dak Prescott's one of those guys that this year has just not been getting the love I feel like that he deserves.
You are
Because like
absolutely
you mentioned
correct.
with Baker, he's the same thing. He's without CD Lamb. Obviously, he has George Pickens, which damn good receiver, but he's making George Pickens look like CD Lamb out there,
Yeah,
man.
he
Like
is.
and this is without his offensive line being healthy as well, just like we talked about with Baker. So I think right now we're seeing a really, really, really good year for quarterbacks just in general. But then back to Jared Goff, he is not so loved by PFF, unfortunately, with a 74.1 grade that ranks him 19th in the
Oh,
NFL. Um, but he's first in passing touchdowns, and he only has 2 interceptions. 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's 20th in big time throws, but he's 35th in average time to throw. So
35th.
yeah,
So he's behind three backups.
I guess I don't know
There's
how
only
that
32
works.
teams.
Because it also seems as though they're doing it backwards, if that makes any sense. Because his average, I don't understand. So I guess my question is, I don't know if this is a good or bad stat, and if it's bad for O line or good for the quarterback. Because the way that they rank it, it seemed as though his was faster than Dak Prescott's, but Dak was ranked higher. So I'm wondering, does that mean it's bad that it's like they're saying the O line forces him to throw, or are they saying that he gets the ball out fast?
Your
I'm
guess
not
is as
sure
good
on
as
that
mine. You know
statistic.
I'm not a big PFF supporter, but I know
Yeah,
some
me
people
either.
I know some people out there swear to it like the Holy Bible, so I'm like I'm willing to talk about it, but yeah, in terms of individual rankings, I'm not going to be like, hey, what's his PFF?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I use PFF a lot, but it's simply because that's the thing a lot of people can relate to, and it puts it in a
Correct.
numerical value for them to understand. Because we could like talk about tape and blah 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 and all that, but it's a lot easier to just say he's got this PFF grade, he's good at these couple things. But with that being said, Goff is also 10th in pass yards, so he's just another one of those guys that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Um, Now, with that being said, moving on to our final segment of today, our games of the week for the NFL. Mine are, I don't know if people would say games of the week. I think they're pretty good games, and I think they have storylines. So that's what I like we talked about before. We love the storyline. Oh, before we move on, forgot to mention, we all know it, but the Lions are wearing their black uniforms on Monday Night Football. I think we all could have seen that coming. I don't think that's a surprise by any means. Which shout out to my girlfriend because she got me a Aiden Hutchinson black stitched jersey and a black golf T-shirt for my birthday yesterday. So shout out to her. That was
Oh,
pretty
happy
cool.
birthday.
Appreciate you. But I am definitely wearing my hutch for this Monday night game. But now moving on.
Are you going
Anyway,
to switch it? If we go on offense, you put on golf, and then when we go on defense, you put on Hutch?
that's not a bad idea, and I might do it with Gibbs jersey because look, the Gibbs jersey is still undefeated, man. I don't know what it is, but we're like 15-0 when I wear that jersey. It's insane because
That's
I
how I
wore it. Go ahead.
that's how I am with my David Montgomery Angry Run shirt. It's
Mm,
only 3-0, but when I wore it, we're 3-0 when I wore it. And versus KC, I did not.
hmm
So
Dude, I literally
Maybe.
wore my Jameer Gibbs jersey for that entire like 11 or 12 game run that we went on last year. And then I bought a Sewell jersey and wore that, and it was our first loss. And then I wore my Gibbs one again and we won. And then I wore my Sewell one for the playoff game and we lost. And yeah, I wore my Sewell one to Green Bay. I was at the game in Green Bay and wore my Sewell one, lost. I was at the game in Green Bay last year and wore my Gibbs one and we won. It's very
So where Gibbs burns Sewell.
dude, well, I wore my Hutch jersey for for Sunday night against Kansas City, and we lost. So
That's
it's
just
like
Gibbs.
it's just the Gibbs, man, and it's the 26. It's like, dude, it's the OG. I personally am. I love the 26 on Gibbs. I hate that he changed to zero. Absolutely hate it. Ugly ass number. Looks like he's got a fucking donut on the back of his jersey, but it is what it is. With that being said, though, let's move on to our NFL games of the week. My first one, and we can go back and forth on these. My first one is Indianapolis at the Chargers. I feel like the Colts right now, I think they're a fluke. I just do. I think they're having one of those years where they're winning a lot of games. Like, let's just go ahead and look at who they've played this season, just because I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, yeah, they have played fucking nobody. Okay, let's be real. Looking at their schedule, they have played like nobody. So they played week one, the Dolphins. They played week two, the Broncos, and won by 1 point. They played week three, the Titans. Week four, the Rams, and they lost. Week five, the Raiders, and then week six, the Colts. Or I'm sorry, the Cardinals. Let's be real here. They ain't played nobody. Like the Rams and I guess you could say the Broncos are the only two good teams that they've played all year, and they beat the Broncos by 1 point, and then they lost to the Rams. So I'm not saying they're bad. I just don't think they're going to maintain being the number one seed in the AFC and being 6-1 and all that. I think they're going to tumble, and I think it's going to kind of happen pretty quick because this week they have the Chargers. Next week they have the Titans, which is but then they have the Steelers, the Falcons, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Niners, the Jaguars, the Texans again. So I feel like that back eight of their season could go really bad for them if they don't play as well as they did the first few. But then again, the Chargers are a really good team, but they have not. I don't want to say necessarily not played up to their potential, but I do feel like they could be doing a little bit better in these games that they are ending up winning. Um, I do feel like this game could be really good, two really good AFC teams, and we could see like what the Colts are really made of because, like I said, they haven't really played too many good teams. So that's why that game is my game of the week, and of course, Justin Herbert. One of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's a guy we didn't mention earlier when we were talking about quarterbacks. And
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, we did mention, but Daniel Jones is having a really good year. So I am kind of excited to watch this one. And also because one of my friends is a huge Colts fan and he talks so much shit about the Lions. So I like the Colts, but I would also like to see them lose, I think, this week, if I'm being honest with you.
I didn't know we had Colts Lions beef.
Yeah, I think it's just because he has always lived in Michigan as a Colts fan. So he's just like,
Okay. Okay.
he's just like, we're good now. So he talks shit. It's just one of those things.
I mean, as Lions fans who had bad teams for years and are finally good, I get it. I
Yep.
get it.
I talk shit sometimes too, so it is what it
Oh,
is.
absolutely. It's half. I won't say half the fun of the sport, but it's a chunk. It's a
Yeah, oh
chunk.
yeah, and I love it too because we'll lose a game and he'll talk shit. Like last year, it was awesome because the Colts sucked. So it was like every time we'd lose, he'd talk shit, and I'd be like, "What's your guys' record again? Isn't it like a lot in like or one in like a lot? You know what I mean? Like y'all have lost like 7 games in a row or some shit.
How's
Um,
Anthony Richardson doing?
right. Um, And I'm a fan of Anthony Richardson, which sucks because he is just not getting it done. And now he's on IR because he broke his fucking orbital in a pregame.
Oh,
So
that's who had. I heard someone did it with one of those elastic bands, but I didn't hear who it was.
yeah,
It would be him. That's.
yep.
I hate
Like
to laugh
damn
at
kid,
anyone getting hurt, but when you get hurt by an elastic band for warm-ups, ah,
dude. Speaking of that, did you see when Charvarius Ward got hurt in warmups? the Colts corner.
Was that when they ran into a teammate?
Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
what the fuck was that guy doing? What was he even doing on the field? It literally looked like a high school kid fucking around trying to go pick the ball off while the receiver didn't know he was coming and just cleaned his clock, bro.
yep.
He's concussed. Like that I watched that video and was just like, "Damn, son.
It
What
it
the
was
fuck?"
it's times like that when I see pro athletes who I feel like a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, they're obviously better than average Joes, but with so many people put them on like this giant pedestal, and then we see stuff like that, and we're like, yeah, they're human.
Yep,
Like,
just
yep,
dumbasses sometimes.
just 6'5" humans.
Yep, just big as hell though. Um, no, but with that being said, before we move on to your first game of the week, I just wanted to mention that this podcast is brought to you by Fanatics. As always, it is the place to shop for sports apparel. This shirt right here I got from Fanatics. Okay, guys, like I get all of my sports apparel from Fanatics, basketball jerseys, NFL jerseys for the most part. Pretty much everything that I own, I bought off Fanatics throughout my life, honestly. Like since I was probably 15, I've been using it. It's a great spot to get your stuff. Just go ahead and click the link in the description and find what you need. They got it all. So go ahead and check out Fanatics. But with that being said, what is your first game of the week?
My first game of the week, I instead of going with a storyline, I feel like we did a little bit of role reversal here this week. Um, I just think the Rams versus Jacksonville. I was gonna say at Jacksonville, but it's not. Jacksonville, I guess they are kind of a home in London. They seem to be
True.
over there a lot. But the Rams versus the Jaguars, they are both 4-1. They both have had um I'll say different styles of being 4-1. Rams are obviously led with Stafford, Devontae Adams, and Puka Nacua, and they just air raid people all day. And Jacksonville is doing it mostly with defense. I know Travis Etienne, who a lot of people wrote off, including myself, is having a pretty damn good comeback year. Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't really got it going yet this year, but we all know he's capable of it. And obviously they have the number 2 pick, Travis Hunter. So like they have exciting pieces to watch. They have um, multiple good players on defense, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast. Lloyd, you got Haynes Allen, you got Walker. Thank God they don't have Hutch. Thank you again, Jacksonville.
And they just
Um,
traded for a new corner as well, Greg Newsome, who has been pretty good for him so far.
oh, I
And
did
then
not
they
hear that
also,
from the
yeah,
Browns.
yeah, they swapped
Oh,
corners. They traded. Oh shoot, I am spacing on the corner's name from Jacksonville. Um, oh
I was
my
saying like I
gosh, they
was
just
aware of Newsome at least being with the Browns, but
yeah, they just traded before this week's game, so they played Tyson Campbell. That was the corner that Jacksonville traded. They literally just swapped corners, and I think it was a sixth round pick for a seventh round pick. And basically, from what I saw, that was because Newsom is a little bit better as like a bump and run, like
just a
man
style
corner.
matchup thing.
Yeah, and Campbell is, or I'm sorry, Newsom is more of a zone guy, and Campbell's more of a bump and run man guy. So they just swapped for
Oh, I've
that
heard
reason.
rumors of Newsome for a couple years, so I'm not surprised by that, but he is not a bad corner. He's not someone that I thought a team would really give up on, to be honest.
Hmm.
Especially with our defensive back woes, I would have liked that if we could have got
Yeah.
something going with that. But
I think it was stylistic, but also I think a big reason that the Browns did that move is because Campbell just got a big deal. So he's on contract for the next 3 or 4 seasons, and
okay, I
Newsom
know
is a free
Newsome is
agent.
due a contract.
Yeah. So I think they figured we're getting Campbell for I think it's like minus his bonuses and stuff like that. I think they're paying him like 14 to 15 million a year, whereas that's probably what Newsom was going to get somewhere around there. And then
So,
they
yeah.
think he fits better. So it kind of makes sense on that front.
All right, yeah, sounds good. Well then, that's another pretty good player there on Jacksonville's defense. Um, Man, I would not want to lose him by any means, but if I could see Hutch on a D line with Haynes Allen on the other side and Lloyd behind him, that would be fun to watch. But yeah, it's offense versus defense. I don't quite want to say Clash of the Titans, but two very good 4-1 teams. So I mean that is going to be, in my opinion, a very pleasant and exciting way to open up Saturday morning because I believe it's a 9:30 start.
Yeah, I always love those. Um, I was gonna say London games, but just overseas games in general because they start so early. And I love nothing more than waking up at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, getting some breakfast, sitting down, putting some football on while I watch film or do whatever I do for the football season. It's always a really nice ritual, which is why I always love college football. Starts at noon. It's
Yep.
beautiful on a Saturday. Kind of hate when it's Sunday night or Monday night football for the Lions and you have to wait. It's the shittiest feeling.
Yep.
Um, it's kind of just like, well, what am I going to do for the next 6 hours? I guess I could watch other teams, but um, but with that being said, my second game of the week, which again is a storyline game, Giants at Broncos. I think this could go either way. Obviously, we just saw Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo. I'm sorry, should have two O's on the end if it's going to be Scataboo. That's just me personally. But I hate when people do that where it's like, well, actually, no, it's this. And it's like, well, phonetically in the fucking English language, brother, that's not how that's pronounced. I'm just saying. It's like, if we're being real here. But anyway, Scataboo, they both played really well last week and they got the win. And I feel like they could do it again this week. And I also feel like the Broncos are a very up and down team this year. Their defense is really good though, so I think it's Jackson Dart's first like real. Um, well, I don't know. Beat the Eagles, so it's one of those things. I don't want to say it's his first real like test, but it's going to be a tough one for him because the Broncos have one of the better pass rushes. They have the best corner in the league. Really good just all around, and their offense is pretty solid. So I could see that game going either way. Um, I do think the Broncos will win, but it should be a pretty interesting game to watch with, the young guys taking over in New York.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had Denver as one of my teams to watch. Um, I can't remember which week. I think it was the Eagles matchup,
Hmm.
but they are. I feel like you, for true football fans, they are an entertaining team to watch. I know a lot of people think defensive games are boring. In my personal opinion, I think some those fans in particular who feel that way just don't know what they're looking at or don't know what they're looking for. Um, Defensive matchups can be just as good as offensive shootouts. Maybe it's just the fantasy football fan club that likes the more offense. But either way, football's football. As long as it is played at a high level, it is entertaining in my opinion. And then leading into my second game of the week, and it might go as a cop out because I am picking the Lions game here. Not
It's against the rules, sir.
it is Monday Night Football. It is in the limelight. It's the only game. I believe that's the only Monday night, right? Because I know they've had a couple double headers. I think
I
this is
don't
the
know.
only.
I'm
Because
not
I know
sure.
last Monday they did have two last Monday night.
I
Let me
will check because
quickly.
I feel like I'm not exactly sure, and I feel like I
Because they
did
had
remember
Bills,
seeing
Falcons,
two.
and Bears Commanders this week.
Yeah,
No,
I
it's Tampa
it's
and
two,
us, and
isn't
then
it?
at 10 it's Texans
Yep.
and Seattle. So strike
Okay.
that, another doubleheader, so we're not the only game. But
Which sucks. I hate that personally.
yeah, a 10 p.m. start, so even after you're tired after watching the Lions, hey, here's another one.
Like,
And yeah, that's probably won't get over until 1 a.m. But obviously a battle of 4-2 versus 5-1. I've mentioned it before. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but since this is the subject matter, I do want to at least touch on it. I don't think it can be overstated how I'm sorry, our corners versus their injured receivers. Ali McNeil coming back. We'll have obviously our all black jerseys on. Golf versus Mayfield. Like I said, I feel like those are two top five, top six quarterbacks that just don't get enough league wide credit. And I think this is going to be a lot better game than the average Joe or Jane realizes.
yeah, for sure, and I do think it's going to be very reminiscent of the earlier primetime game that the Buccaneers played in against Seattle. I think it's going to be pretty much the same as that one. But with that being said, I don't think we gave a prediction for the Lions game yet. At least a score. Or no, we did. Never mind. I lied. We did. I
I
said
know we did for
34 to
Michigan.
31. Yeah.
Did we
Wait,
for
I said 34
Lions?
to 31. Was that Michigan? I
I remember
can't
giving
remember
my
now.
Michigan prediction because I predicted Michigan to win by 3, but I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if Washington wins. I don't know if we win score prediction for the Lions.
Okay, so yeah, score prediction for Lions, Tampa Bay. I am gonna say, I'm gonna say it feels like a cop out to say the same score. But I'm gonna go Lions 38, Tampa Bay 30. I think the Lions are gonna get it done. I think it's gonna be similar to the Ravens game where going into it we're all kind of like, ooh, this could go either way, and then the Lions kind of dominate for a while, and then the Bucks kind of come back and make it closer. But we all kind of know as the game goes on, the Lions are gonna win.
I'll go kind of an unorthodox score, but I'll go 31-20 because I can just see the Bucks getting a couple field goals. A
Hmm.
bend don't break with our defense. Maybe our corners give up a play, they get in the red zone, but then we can lock it down. And then I do feel like our offense can. I mean, I hope it's not just wishful thinking. I do try to put my homerisms aside for analysis, and I do think our this would be a pretty good week with the matchups and everything we've already said for our offense to get going. So yeah, I'll go 31-20 Lions.
All right, so it looks like it's going to be a clean sweep for the Lions for us for our predictions. But with that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys for watching. Um, we are live every Wednesday, 6 o'clock to 7 to 7:30. Usually we're about an hour, but sometimes we go over if there's more to talk about. We try to cover everything that we can, so sometimes it goes a little longer. But with that being said, you can find me at JSoSweet. You can find James at Gullet_James, and you can find us both at MIFB Network and MichiganFootballNetwork.com. With that being said, we will see you guys next week, and we appreciate you for watching.